Lavender, queer life coaches.
Welcome to Toasted Lavender Podcast. My name is Kai. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm going to be hosting today. And joining me today are Lisa, Lindsay, and Alex.
Per usual.
They all use she, her pronouns at this time. And we are going to introduce our beers that we're drinking right now. And the beer that I am drinking, before we go into these big bad boys that we're all sharing, is a Pikes Peak Brewing from Colorado. It's a gold Belgian style strong. It's 8.7%, which is the first time I have looked at what the percentage of this beer is. So,
I'm glad you had a little food before.
Cheers to your host this evening, friends.
Glad you had some vegan pull-aparts there.
Let's turn the time over to Sister Lisa.
Sister Lisa.
What are you drinking?
Let's talk about this wasp nest
So
first.
we're all sharing this wasp nest beer from Deschutes that came from Bend, Oregon on a epic road trip that Lindsay and Alex took in 2018.
Yes.
So it's kind of unaged. It's a
from
few
a
years
special
aged.
thing.
I think it was, so it says it was bottled on March 23rd of 2018. And the description says it's a Belgian style double.
I say Dubel. Perhaps.
Double?
Is it
Is it a double? Is that what it comes down to?
Dubbel.
Dubbel?
I don't know.
We do like
Double?
beer, but I don't
Dubel?
say a lot of these words out loud.
I like Double.
We need to go to Ireland to
No,
get
we
our
don't.
beer selves together.
Germany. So
Yeah, we need to go to Germany.
Belgian style double
You.
with figs aged in Pinot casks with Brettanomyces.
Okay.
It's delicious, I must say. I'm a fan of barrel-aged anything, and
You
I
are
like-
a big barrel-aged fan, aren't you?
I like dark sours.
Really interesting because I feel like when we first met, you didn't like barrel aged anything.
That's true.
I don't think I had really had much barrel-aged back then.
It was the barrel-aged beers that we all had together when we first met were mostly the Big Bad Baptiste, and she does not
I
like
don't
stouts.
like stouts.
But she
Yeah,
likes
that's-
barrel-aged
okay.
like sours and like
Gotcha.
Belgians but I feel like those first ones
if
were
it's too
stouty.
chocolatey, I can't do it. And those
She
are all
doesn't
like
like chocolate.
Liquid
so
chocolate is not
liquid,
good for you.
liquid, like over the top.
That is
roasty.
delicious.
It's just like too rich.
Okay.
Wasp Nash.
I
Wasp
really
nest.
like the label on this.
Which you can
like
see
that
on our
one.
Instagram. I just posted a photo, which by the time you
really
listen to this will
tasty.
be a couple weeks
away.
ago.
Yeah, well, but
Just scroll
That's
back.
fine.
That's the beauty
Scroll
of the
back.
feed.
It is a great label though. It's a wasp next to a fig in gray tones, but I can't remember what else we bought there when we were there, but this is very delicious. What do you think you would rate it, Alex?
yeah, what are we doing as a
We're doing a collective.
everybody
We are
has to
checking
give
like
their
last
rating?
time.
Okay.
We'll do an average.
It's not as tart as I want it to be.
I wonder if it's because we've
Do
had
you
it.
like figs?
Perhaps. I can't say that I've ever had a fig.
What about like a Fig Newton?
Oh, for sure. I've
Okay.
had
I
a fig.
love Fig Newtons.
Yeah, but those
that's
are
what
ways-
but that's what the filling is. It's a fig.
Yeah,
It's
but
It's not a
Probably-
fresh fig. It's like a
no,
raisin
it's-
fig.
It's like
kind of a
80%
sweeter version. There's a lot
corn
of sugar.
syrup,
Yeah.
and then raisins.
That's a
and
nice
fig.
thing to point to if you haven't had it, though. Like, that's like probably the closest.
Yeah,
that
I've
anybody
had a
could
couple
really,
of
if you
those.
haven't just like gone out and buy yourself a fig at the
We're going to
grocery
get,
store.
so Costco has figs right now. We'll do a fig tasting.
I would love to try some real ass figs.
Let's do
Okay.
Don't you usually kind of pair them with
cheeses.
balsamic.
Crackers,
salty and
balsamic.
vinegary. Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
do that. That'd be
Let's
fun.
try it.
Yeah. All right, we'll do it. We'll
My-
report back.
My other experience was at the. What brewery was that?
Oh, Ballast Point.
Ballast Point
right,
in
right,
San
right.
Diego.
Yeah,
with
Oh, the
the,
balsamic fig.
Their
Yes, the fig
experimental brewery.
balsamic Victory at Sea. So it was like a really dark porter.
And I like that Victory at Sea. Did you like that
particular?
particular beer or not so much?
I didn't like the regular one as much,
Okay.
but
You liked the fig
We went there and
variety.
did these tasters and got completely wasted. And they had one that was an al pastor, so it was like pineapple and chipotle or something.
That sounds
And then
so
they had the
good.
fig and balsamic, and
We
the
tried to
fig
go
was
back.
so much better. Like I liked it so much better.
Yeah.
We tried to go back and get it. And
Like
they
2
had
days
already-
later, we wanted a crowler of it, and they were out.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of that experimental brewery is it's always
they
I feel like
turn
it's
shit.
always
Yeah.
like they're like we're making one
It was really good.
keg of this and then
Yeah.
we're moving on.
My rating for this, I don't know, like a 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5. It's really good, but it's not as like
Wow, you
pungent
guys.
as it usually. Like it's not as pungent as I'm used to. Like the brewery Turo, or like it's not quite as like in my face as what I was expecting from a barrel aged beer.
What percentage is this? Did we
It's like
9. Okay.
9.1. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 4.25.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Wow.
stand behind that.
Okay,
I really
no,
like it.
cheers to you.
Well,
What would you
there's
give it?
Like
Plenty
we've
of-
all
It's
had
fruity.
a bit of a different experience with it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's not boozy. There's a
Yeah.
lot of oak.
It's very oaky.
I could drink that whole thing myself.
No, you couldn't.
I could.
Oh my god.
What's the
I'm almost
percentage
done with
again?
my taster.
9.1?
I'm gonna go with Lisa there on
Okay.
that one.
4.25.
Wow. Okay. I respect everyone's opinions. I'm sorry I dragged the group down into a lower category, but I was just being
No,
It's
it's
okay.
not
Honest
very
with my
complex. I mean, I can
Yeah,
it's
understand,
very simple.
but I kind of like it because of that.
Yeah, fair enough. So are you logging our
Divided
untapped score?
by 4.
Oh,
So
we're
the
doing an
average,
average.
yeah,
We're doing
that's
an
what we
average.
did last
That's what we
week.
decided
Oh.
how we were going to do it. Yeah.
I
So
guess
our
I had-
average,
We were going to do no ratings, but then we like started doing an average of what the
Okay.
group is, which I think is more
That's
reflective.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So our average is 4.
Okay. Well, I'm
That seems fair.
I'm correct.
I feel like that's
I'm the rightest
Yeah.
one then.
I'm the rightest one here.
Okay, what's our other one we're drinking?
All right.
This one is it's called Strange Country. It's from Bow and Arrow Brewing in
You've heard us talk about them
Albuquerque, New
before.
About
Mexico.
We love
It's
them.
a barrel-aged dark sour ale, and it's aged in used whiskey barrels with Brettanomyces, Lactobacillus, and Pediococcus.
Oh boy.
So these barrels that it was hosted in have already probably had.
Whiskey in them.
Okay, so
So,
yeah, it's gonna be. I hope it's gonna be delicious. I'm about to try it.
all right.
Cheers, everybody.
Did it say the style?
Cheers.
No,
of
let's
beer?
do a little cheers.
Little cheers.
A sour, a dark sour?
Dark sour. Ooh, I'm excited.
Woo.
Ooh, see,
I like that better.
that's what I was going.
I like that
it's
better.
not-
That's
it's- it's
that's what I
full.
wanted.
It's
Yep.
like hits you on every part of your tongue. It's good. It's really good.
So
I want to hear your rating first this time.
I am a really big fan of dark sour beers, and then barrel age it, and I think you're just gonna get a delightful beer. And I would give this a 4.5.
Yeah. I'm gonna second that. It's 4.5 for me as well. It's really good.
Okay, I'll do the same.
4.5.
Yeah.
It's very smooth while still being like
Yeah.
a sour dark beer, but it's not like, I don't know. It doesn't.
It's really good.
It's smooth. It's smooth still.
All right, I'm gonna also go with 4.5.
Okay. No
So-
math required.
No math required.
Today's topic is WPATH, in all caps, WPATH, the path to pathologizing. So, before we get started, I'd like to ask everybody hear what your understanding of pathologizing is.
Pathology is how the body works. So anatomy is like what makes up the body, and pathology is how it all works.
Okay?
I don't know.
Or it's disease of the body.
It's disease of the
It's
body.
physiology is how it works. Pathology is disease of the body.
Okay.
I never had any of those classes.
Alex, do you
I had
have
all of
anything
them, like,
to add?
100 years ago.
I did take an anatomy class in high school. That's all I have to offer to this.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I have two definitions that I found while researching my topic that I felt like I wanted to share. The first one is pathologizing is the practice of seeing a symptom as indication of disease or disorder.
All right.
Or the treatment of a health or behavior condition as if it were a medical condition.
So it's like you lost your taste and smell and you have a fever, so like perhaps you have COVID.
Yeah, sure.
So the
That's
symptoms are like the pathology of the disease.
of the disease, yes. Like,
Okay.
yes. All right. So today we're going to trace the path of WPATH, which stands for the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, which, if you're a regular listener, we talked about WPATH briefly in episode 9 of Compton Cafe Riot. And that brief touch on that made me feel like I wanted to do a bit more of a deep dive into the subject. So, according to their site, and I'm reading this verbatim off of their website, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, which we will refer to as WPATH going forward, formerly known as the Harry Benjamin International Gender Dysphoria Association,
That's a mouthful.
is a mouthful.
Say that 3 times fast.
I won't do that.
It is a 501c3 nonprofit, interdisciplinary professional and educational organization devoted to transgender health. Our professional, supporting, and student members engage in clinical and academic research to develop evidence-based medicine and strive to promote a high quality of care for transsexual, transgender, and gender non-conforming individuals internationally. We are funded primarily through the support of our membership and through donations and grants sponsored by non-commercial sources. According to their website, their mission statement is to promote evidence-based care, education, research, public policy, and respect in transgender health. My intent of this episode today is to trace over what got us to this point of what established WPATH as it is now, and also to acknowledge that although it was generally meant with the best of intent, pathologization in itself is guilty of framing the individual or the illness as the problem that doesn't fit in to society, rather than our society does not accept and make space for individuals that don't conform to what society has set out straight. So just to give everybody kind of
Right.
the background of how I'm going into this episode. So a note that I have here is like, although it's generally meant with the best of intent, pathologization often frames the individual or the illness as the problem and not society, which categorizes that problem as an illness in the first place. So today my focus is on the path that established what is now today known as WPATH. And there are a lot of individuals and organizations and scientists and doctors that have been a part of establishing what it is today, but I've broken it down into what the key players are in my mind. So just take that as a disclaimer. I'm going to start with Magnus Hirschfield, which was a pivotal figure in the political history of sexuality and gender. He was born in 1868 in Prussia.
Yeah.
And earned a degree in medicine from the University of Berlin in 1892. His most important contribution to studying sexuality and gender was his concept of sexual intermediaries, which is the idea that every human being is made up of a unique set of sex characteristics, and because of those sex characteristics has different ideas of how things should be and how they should act and what their roles are, and the idea that this is sort of intrinsic. According to his framework, there were more than 43 million combinations of characteristics, which translates to 43 million unique genders, if you will.
That's really intense.
That's a lot.
It is, but it's very...
But I can believe that there are like 43 million different
combinations
bodies,
of characteristical...
Right?
Right.
Listen up, America.
That makes sense.
So to me, this is like... To me, disclaimer, everybody, this means that like gender is a construct and we're all acting in the ways that we feel is most aligned with our internal sense of self.
Well,
but
hopefully
really,
you are.
or you, yeah, exactly. Hopefully you are. Or maybe not, hopefully. Maybe you want to be outside of the barrier. Maybe you don't want, but like,
Well,
this is
you're
just
happy.
to say that, yes, that's exactly right.
wh-
Hopefully
be
you're
whoever
happy,
you
be
want.
who you are. There are so many unique chromosomes and experiences and biology aspects that factor into how you are as a human being that it's just, how is anyone ever going to categorize it in one category? It's not possible.
So what's the basis of 43 million? How do you come up with sort of that
It was a
permutation?
So he was very much a researcher and did a lot of ethnographies on people within the transgender and transsexual, as it was known at that time, and
just
gay
imagining
communities.
how he got in there. Like, 'cause
And we could probably go down a whole deep dive of
I'm
how
sure
he
we
got
could.
in there. But
I'm just thinking about him like knocking on some door that's not a door. It's actually a bookshelf, and then like they open it up and
to a whole new world of things
Like,
To a
that
lab
you don't
that's
even know
like-
that's possible. Okay, so just hold your hat. Just
All right,
hold
okay.
your hat.
just yeah.
So if I've really tried really hard to make these notes very accessible, and I have a lot of pictures and a lot of things that I would love to share. So if you are a Patreon member, you'll have access to our notes, and you can see photos of all these people and links and things like that
$2.
for $2 a month, or $2 a month.
And you'll get stickers.
Yeah. So Hirschfield believed that sexuality was innate and a part of our biology, which I kind of already mentioned before. And he went on to found the Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin in 1919. In 1928, I want to do a quick pause because this isn't in my notes, but I feel like this is worth mentioning. He was a member of Sigmund Freud's Human Sexuality Coalition or whatever. He was involved in that. Yes. And he went on to found the Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin in 1919. And then in 1928, he became the founding president of the World League of Sexual Reform. And in both of these roles, he worked with government bodies to end harassment of queer and trans people on the streets, like helping with policies of how to deal in quotation marks with people. And he was also doing an intense amount of research, which led to him amassing the world's largest library of queer research.
Do you feel like he was an ally?
Yes, he was. I absolutely feel like he was an ally. I didn't know the guy. I wasn't friends with him, but like everything I've read about him, he is regarded very warmly. He was an ally. He was very into helping people. He actually got his start with gerontology, or I think gerontology is the word for it, but he was administering hormones to
Older
adults
people?
who had kind of lost their sex drive, which I find to be a very interesting side note, because like I feel like I have a lot of friendships in those I'm like on neck and neck on what I'm going through with those adult males who are like taking testosterone to peak their libido, where I'm like taking it to like masculinize. But it's very interesting to have discussions with these people who
Right, we have
are
a lot
like
of friends
40,
and family.
between 40 and 50. And I have a lot, like, it's not just like one or two, like we have a lot of friends that are in this category right now. So just kind of an interesting to that.
Do people like
what's the
talk about this?
condition?
Because I feel
Yeah,
like
It's low libido. It's like
Low
you can't get it
Low
up.
T. It's not just that. It's like it affects a lot of different things.
Sleepless,
You're
like
like,
you don't
I'm
sleep well
tired.
when you go to bed. You like feel exhausted all the time. You don't have a sexual drive.
It's
You-
the same as if you're like estrogen or your iron's off as a woman. Like you just aren't. You just
Well, I'm
don't
tired all the
function
time.
well.
You're just low balance.
Maybe you need
mean,
some tea.
Do you want me to
For real,
inject
though,
you with some
maybe-
tea?
I don't know about that.
It's
Or
just
some
like
E?
trying to
I don't wanna
regulate
be
what the
injected.
normal level of hormones should be for a person in this age group. And people don't realize that hormones affect way more than just your sex drive. They affect like depression and
Whether or
anxiety,
not I
getting out of
wanna
bed in the morning.
punch you
Your
in the
brain,
face.
Whether you want to punch me in the
if
face,
you feel
whether
like you've been hit by a bus,
Yeah, like-
your weight, like your metabolism,
irritability. Like there are
It's-
so many things that go into it that people don't realize. the
hormones
hormonal
literally
control
regulate
is-
everything in your body.
Yes.
This
Maxfield Hirschfield was amassing the world's largest library of queer research in Berlin,
Which was apparently the gay mecca.
which
Yes.
kind of was a gay mecca,
Yeah.
and like German doctors were experimenting with hormones, endocrinology, which
cocaine.
I'm sure cocaine, and also I also feel like it's worth mentioning that a lot of this research came from not good means, and it's really shitty. And
It's also
it came
Berlin
from
in
experimenting on people that it's horrible. It really is. But I just want to give that preliminary information before I continue on. And unfortunately, although he was a pioneer for transgender folks, administering hormones, assigning hormones, and helping people find resources to get surgeries and hormones and things, his institute and all of the research that he had done for all years prior came to an abrupt end in 1933 when fascist Nazis
Those
fascist
fascists.
Nazis denounced Hirschfield as a medical doctor who had graduated from the University of Berlin and burnt his institute to the ground, and all the research and books and all of this unique information, which today we all think, oh, internet, well, it's fine, it's all in the cloud. This literally set back where we are today hundreds of miles. Like we don't even know the impact this created by all of this research and information by someone who was legitimately interested in human sexuality, and it's just gone. It's just erased and wiped from the record. It's really tragic, honestly, because it's hard to say where we would be today if we still had.
Back then, you can just make a copy and
ship it over email to somebody or whatever. Like, but it was gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. And
fucking Nazis.
There, just a bit of a disclaimer. There's some
There's a lot of disclaimers.
There's some icky photos. I wanted to be representative. I wanted to show what there was to show, and but if you don't want to look at our Patreon because of the photos of this, it's fine. There's a photo of Nazis burning books. It could be triggering. Just
you can
so
also watch
knows.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and you'll see a bunch of Nazis burning books.
Yeah, it's
fictionalized, but it's real enough that you'll get it.
Yes. So, a close colleague of Maxfield Hirschfield's was
What
none
a name,
other.
by the way.
I know, it's been hard for me to.
Can we call him Max Hirsch?
Max
Can we
Hirsch.
just call
M.
him
Hirsch.
Max?
Maybe his name is Max. Maybe I added the Maxfield. I don't know. Max Hirschfield. Maxwell. I think it's
MH.
Maxwell
Call him
Hirschfield.
Max.
I like
Maximilian?
Maxfield.
Max Hirsch is better. Okay, so Max Hirsch.
Max H.
A close colleague of Max Hirsch's was none other than Harry Benjamin. I don't know if anyone here has heard of Harry Benjamin.
Well, you said that there was a Harold Benjamin,
Button.
et cetera,
Oh, the name of that organization.
Whatever.
yes.
Harold
mouthful
Yes,
Benjamin.
organization.
So, Harry Benjamin was a German-born doctor who
HB.
joined up with Hirschfield because of his interest in human sexuality. He was a young student who was kind of accompanying Max Hirschfield while he was going to gay bars and such in Berlin.
Do you think
As
he
a
was gay?
study. Yes, they were both gay. Yes, they were both
How
gay.
do you just walk into a gay bar and you're like, sorry, I'm doing a research?
They were both
Hey,
gay,
I'm
but it
here
was
to
very much
research.
like we're doing a research project.
We're
but yes,
doctors.
yes,
Yeah,
They had lab
I
coats
get
on.
that, but I'm glad that it wasn't no, they were both totally straight. Everything's cool. They're just walking in with a clipboard.
just checking in.
They're walking into the gay bar and they're like, okay, there's 800 men here and there's
I want to know what people wore
600
back
women
then
here.
to the gay bar.
Well, you should look at the photos that I've attached to.
If you want to sign up for our
some
Patreon.
fun. I haven't detailed every single thing, but it does kind of give you a key and
All right.
visuals to this world. But so Harry Benjamin, he wrote and researched a book called Die Transvestitism, which was published in 1910.
So,
and he was
pause.
in Berlin, and he was
Not die. D.
Well,
Which in
It's
German,
spelled-
DIE is the in German.
right.
Just so you know.
So
Okay.
it's not.
It's
die.
not-
It's not
Okay,
not-
I'm glad you
that's-
pointed that.
honey,
I
that-
was
yeah.
a little, I don't know, I was a little disturbed by that, but I don't know,
so
because
it's
he's
called,
revered as a good.
It's called The Transvestite.
Okay,
Is the
so
name of the book.
this is.
Can we call someone that we know that speaks German
I took
to make sure that
6
I
years
feel
of
like
German
I trust
in
Lisa's
high school.
opinion.
Yes.
Yes. So, die, D-I-E
D.
is the.
D.
Okay.
Not die.
I'm
You don't
glad-
pronounce it die.
D. Okay, well now we know. The Transvestite, which was published in 1910.
it's not that extreme.
And
No hate crimes happening here today.
he came to the U.S. in 1913 and established a medical practice, and he was certainly involved with like he was sort of a prisoner of war for a minute when he was trying to get to the Americas, because this was when Nazism was starting to become a thing. So he would travel back to visit his workers and
Okay.
colleagues, other endocrinologists, other go back to Germany to
Scientists,
visit with
yeah.
these people, and then at a certain point it became impossible for him to continue visiting them because he was literally risking his life when Nazism came to rise.
I cannot imagine that you can just like roll into Nazi Germany to chat with your scientist
With your
buddies and like
colleagues.
roll right out.
Yeah. Yeah. So he came to the U.S. in 1913, established his own medical practice, and then he really became a pivotal figure in shifting the moral perspective of like transsexuality in the U.S. And Harry Benjamin became the state's leading medical authority on transsexuality in the 1950s, and this was much due to his experience in hormone therapy with patients who were cis and could not like reach what their felt like they were lacking in hormones. So like an adult male who specifically could not function sexually anymore. So the belief was that if you up the hormones, it'll up your libido and that will help
Your body.
fix your deficiency.
Right.
In the 1950s, Christine Jorgensen transitioned, which made national headlines, and it was European, it was Dutch, it was sensational for sure, and
So-
there was kind of a wanting to like be on par with the science that was able to perform her transition.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So, Christine Jorgensen was a like American GI person in some odd war, or was just in the military, and had to go overseas.
For her, at that time,
Gender
sex change operation.
reassignment.
Yes.
Surgery.
Yes.
And then came back and was like a tiny celebrity
Yes.
because this is like a medical miracle. This
And
is
it's
absolutely
very
possible.
interesting that she was a tiny celebrity, because now you see how trans women are viewed through the narrative of the media now, and it's not.
Well, it wasn't like a cultural thing back then. I don't know. I haven't like read a lot about.
It was probably an anomaly. Like
It was
Yeah,
an
it was-
anomaly for
yeah.
sure.
we don't know. We
For
don't
sure.
even know how to handle this, so we're going to talk about it.
It was viewed as like, look at like what science is able to do and like what medicine is able to do.
Instead of this, like, look at these menaces to society.
Right. Look at these spooky people that don't belong in our culture or what have you.
Right. It's the Christine. I feel like we should, again.
We
here's
should do a
another
whole
thing, We should do
episode.
an episode
Yeah, we
about
should do
her
a
and
whole
her
episode.
whole journey. But Harry Benjamin privately prescribed through his clinic hormone prescriptions to hundreds of transsexual patients, as well as helping arrange genital surgeries, whatever, just reconstructing genital surgeries to many patients. But clearly not as many as hormones, and we all, like, even to now, many people do hormone replacement therapy in their transitions and choose not to do genital reconstruction surgeries, and that is very valid. I just wanted to mention this. One of Harry Benjamin's most notable patients, who he helped transition and provide some of these medical documentations for, was Reed Erickson. And Reed Erickson was the son of a large lead smelting company in Texas. They made like bleachers for high school stadiums and
Out
things
of
like
lead?
that. Out of lead.
Oh,
Yes.
great.
So
Does that explain Texas? So
probably. But then their business relocated to Louisiana, so I don't know. But
far? Also explains Louisiana. Shout out to Louisiana.
Cheers.
And
Cheers,
a non-shout
Louisiana.
out to Texas because
Fuck you for your abortion
Fuck
laws
them.
right now.
Especially today.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Reed Erickson was the first of his class in Texas to graduate from a high engineering program. And at that time, he was a female. So, he was the first female to graduate with an engineering degree from this university in Texas.
How juicy.
It's pretty juicy.
What year was this?
I don't know, in the 50s, yeah.
Something.
Sounds about right.
And in 1963, Reed Erickson became a patient of Harry Benjamin and began medically transitioning from a female-born person to a male. And Dr. Harry Benjamin was administering his hormones, helping him get arranged for the appropriate surgeries and things. And this is in 1963. So, as I mentioned before, was the son of a large lead smelting company. And when his father died in 1962, which was a year prior to him becoming a patient of Harry Benjamin, Reed inherited the family business, which was already worth a bunch of money, and he was a very smart businessman and ran the business quite well, bought himself multiple properties, one in Mexico that he called the Lovejoy Palace, one in... One
Sounds like a Prince album.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Pretty close.
really just like set himself up well, but also was extremely interested in philanthropy and learning about others and other species and giving money to other organizations that he believed in furthering.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So,
I feel like you need a buzzer.
so he had access to medical professionals and like
Because of his money.
medicines and surgery because of his money.
Yes, like he knew, like
And-
many people probably didn't know about Harry Benjamin, but Reed Erickson was a very privileged young person that had a lot of money. Yes.
And there probably aren't a lot of like people in the 1960s that just read the newspaper once a week that understand like medical advances and
For sure.
know the vocabulary of whatever.
Yes.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Got it.
So, Reed Erickson was quite an eccentric person.
Are there pictures of Rita?
Yes, and there are.
Great.
This particular picture that I want to discuss is his best friend, Henry, which in many journalistic interviews and such, people assumed that Henry was like his boyfriend or lover. Henry was a leopard. Literally a leopard. And Reed would like board flights with his
cat?
pet. Yes, a leopard.
Wait, why do people think it was his lover?
Because like if you go interview this person and he's talking about Henry
about
all the time,
Henry.
Henry's his best friend. It's a leopard. Here's
It's
a
a pet.
photo for everyone to see. Here's Reed and Henry together.
It's his pet.
It was his pet. It was his best friend. Like Henry was like his everything, and he like before the times of having an emotional service animal or whatever, like Henry was known to board flights with Reed.
Henry was his emotional support animal.
Yeah. So
A leopard.
kind of interesting. But as I mentioned before, Reed had a lot of money, and It was his money that funded the EEF, Erickson Education Fund, which developed a series of pamphlets for the transsexual community detailing things like how to legally change your name or how to navigate your way into finding a competent surgeon to help you execute a surgery that you might need. It was also Erickson's money that funded Harry Benjamin's book, The Transsexual Phenomenon, which was published in 1966 while Harry Benjamin was in his 80s.
80s.
Which just goes to give you a bit of a character analysis of Harry Benjamin. I mean, he died at 101 years old.
Whoa.
And he was still just working away into his 80s. So
Damn.
Okay,
so Reed was Reed given the family estate before or after transitioning?
I think that he was still like kind of the daughter, because as far as I've gathered, he started consulting with Harry Benjamin 1 year after his father's death.
So he
became the heir to the family business, and
probably because he was an only child, or
maybe like just like showing the most. I don't know. I don't really know, but he was the single heir to inherit the family company.
Kind of wild to think about a woman inheriting a family company in the 60s.
Yeah, and I don't know
let
how
alone
much
a trans
his family
man.
knew. I don't know how much his family knew about his identity. I don't have any answers.
Did he have siblings?
I also don't know that.
Do we know anything about his love life?
Yes, he was married.
Aside from Henry.
Well, yes. Henry was cited all the time in everything. Like, Henry was the love of his life. And I get it.
We get the love of my life. I get it.
We all get it. We all are dog people, animal people, cat people, whatever. But, like, he did have... There was some lead into saying that he was... What was your question?
If Reed was ever married, or...
Oh, yes. Reed was married twice. And there
to
are
men or women?
Women. And there are photos of both of his weddings that you can find on the interweb.
I think my question was about siblings, but...
Siblings I don't know about, but he was married twice. He was married to two different women.
So maybe started out as lesbian and transitioned?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay. And that's not even a question. Like, if you research Reed, you will find out that he, like, for sure was a lesbian. He was an active lesbian who then transitioned into a male. And when he transitioned, he was 43 years old. Like, it was...
Did he get remarried as Reed?
Yes. I think both of his marriages were after his transition.
Oh, okay.
Both of his marriages were after while he was a male.
Yeah.
Yes, both of his marriages were after. So the transsexual phenomenon by Harry Benjamin was published in 1966, and Harry Benjamin was in his 80s. The text is notable for its examination of transsexualism as not a psychological issue, but rather a somatic disorder that should be treated through medicine. Which, I just want to take a moment for us all to digest that, because there's a good thing that it's not being treated as a psychological issue, like I'm not a fucking lunatic, but instead should be treated as a medical issue. That's where the problem comes in. It's not.
Well,
you said somatic, and I don't know what that word means. What's a somatic issue?
Can we Google it? While we're Googling it, can I do a confession?
Yes.
So it was like, I don't know, quite a while ago. I remember that I felt like very progressive about trans issues, but I know that I thought about it as like a psychological thing, and then like if the fix is surgery, then why aren't we just like allowing people to have surgery, and why are we like putting up barriers
Right.
about this?
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
And like I felt like I was very open-minded about it, but I understand now that it's not entirely like, I don't know, it's not the full picture of what being trans is, and it's not I don't know.
I'm really glad that you're bringing this up, because I feel like as I've done my research for this episode, I've been triggered in both ways, because I also thought of myself once upon a time as that person that was like, yes, I'm progressive and I'm supportive of trans issues, but like the problem is that we're making trans an issue. And that is kind of mind-blowing. Like, the problem is that our society sees being trans, this goes back to our Matrix episode. Like, it's so perfectly tied into that I don't even know how to.
It's hard though, because it's like, as a trans person, you do have to be treated medically for you to feel like yourself, right? If you don't have your shot every Monday, you don't feel like yourself.
Yes, but I agree with you 100%, but I'm going to stop you right there, because I'm going to say that the reason that my brain creates this narrative of what should be for me, it's all structural and societal.
For sure, because gender is a construct, but like, let's talk about physical things. Like, how happy do you feel when your mustache grows in thicker or your leg hair grows thicker? And you would not be able to do that without medical intervention.
And I agree with you 100%, but I have to go back so many steps and say, would I have ever wanted medical intervention if society didn't sort of plant? That's what this whole argument is. Like, if society didn't plant this in my head that like I needed to be this or that, and I clearly didn't fit this, so I wanted to be that.
But that's the world you live in. Like, you can't go back. Like, there's no way to go back. Like, there's no option for you to live in a world where gender isn't a construct. It just is.
But I disagree with you, because this is the whole argument of pathologization, is that we've made a whole medical system based on trans or non-trans, trans or cis, and like, our society has constructed that entire system of what trans and cis is. And so if our society did not have this construct, would we maybe just be able to exist a little more peacefully as we are without feeling the need to...
You could be one of the 43 million genders that just
right, and that's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. Like, if our society hadn't already created this model of where we should safely exist, then there would be so many variants that didn't feel the need to change, or didn't feel the need to adapt, or didn't feel the need to do some other thing to sort of like be a part of this binary model. That's all I'm getting at.
I understand what you're saying, where it's like, if you weren't born as the person that's supposed to like have babies and clean the house after your parents give you away in marriage.
Yes.
Then like maybe you don't feel like you need to do this very specific thing in order to feel like an authentic person. And you can just like be whatever you feel comfortable as being.
And I'm envisioning a world where, because I am the first to say that like this whole transition process has been an extreme journey for me, and it's been a very much like I didn't know I wanted to take hormones, and I didn't know like, it's all been a step-by-step thing. But, like, had I known, like, completely outside of the perspective, like, not being involved in the day-to-day life and just, like, looking in on this, like, maybe there's a world where there's, like, a person who has a feminine body who's still, like, where bodies and what your structure role is aren't the same. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at, is that
Just
our
like meat
society,
suits
yes,
that
our
we
society has
can't
constructed
help.
this entire model that we can't even, like, extract ourselves from in a certain way.
So, do you see yourself as your transness being more mental or physical? Do you think it's biological, or do you think it's...
I absolutely think it's biological. I absolutely think my transness is biological, and I want to go on record saying that. I don't feel like there's any other way to say that. However, I do want to say that if the biological model was shifted a bit of, like, how things are being viewed, then it might not pressure people so much to fill the need. Like, you might not fill the need, and I don't know. I don't live in that world. I did what I needed to do in the world that I lived in, and I don't regret that choice. I'm very thankful for what I did in the world that I lived in. But if you lived in a worldview that was a little looser, that was like, you can take on whatever, like, society hasn't already established a structure for what you are to be as whatever gender
So maybe,
person
like,
you are.
in your brain, you don't have, like, the types of dysphoria that
Yes.
Perhaps.
Yes.
Yes.
a lot of people
Can we go
do.
to the definition?
So, somatic is relating to the body, especially as distinct from the mind.
And read the quote again.
So the text is notable for its, and we're talking about the transsexual phenomenon, which was published by Harry Benjamin in 1966. The text is notable for its examination of transsexualism, not as a psychological issue, but rather as a somatic disorder that should be treated through medicine.
And somatic again was
Separated from the mind, so it's a biological thing.
So it's like your body, it's not your mind.
Well,
Which
and-
in my mind, seeing transsexualism, it's now not called that, that's an outdated term, but seeing transness and homosexuality through a biological lens, to me, where are you? Like, why are you not seeing it through a biological lens?
Well, and our doctor literally says, oh, you have an endocrine disorder, Kai. Your T is lower than what it should be.
But it's because I have
Instead
a
of-
progressive
but it's because
doctor.
you don't have the
Right. Like, he is
Parts
seeing it
that
through
make it-
a
Yeah.
very biological lens. And, like, when he said that at your first appointment, I was blown away.
And I agree with you. I was also blown away, but the flip side of this that's kind of icky, that my whole point in sharing this episode is that pathologization is not always good. Because if you think about people that have more barriers than me, which are many people that have a race barrier, people that have any sort of privilege barrier whatsoever, that can't get all these steps and all these things that they need in order to be according to the WPATH standards so that they can get prescribed to either have surgery or hormones, but they can't even get to that level because they have so many other barriers in front of them that they'll just never get there.
That's why I asked earlier about the people in your life that you know that get T injections because they, like, can't sleep.
Well, and men don't talk about this.
Yeah,
I would
that's
not
the
have
other thing.
known.
It's like, I don't know that women talk about getting hormone therapy
My
either.
point is just how easy it is for a man to get T.
Just, like, pop into the doctor's
But I gotta,
office
like,
and say, like,
right? But, like,
my
all
period
Get it
the
up.
doesn't work.
all
Yeah.
the things that Kai had to go through
Yeah.
just for that, and they just, like, fucking throw it out like it's like a
And you guys
Pioneer
wouldn't-
Day parade.
I brought a whole pamphlet of paperwork that I was given. Like I wanted to bring some of this as like, it's not easy. It's fucking hard. And it
We
sucks.
remember hearing about all the different like appointments that you had to have and all the different things that you
And
had
I
to
feel
go
like
through.
I'm privileged. Like I know I'm privileged.
Yeah.
I know that it was 10 times easier for me than it would have been for a transmasculine person of color. Like I can't
Well,
even.
and we had an ally on our side from our insurance company who
We had an insurance ally.
was
We had
amazing.
a legal ally. Like we had so many allies on our side that helped us get through this process. Harry Benjamin's model of treatment for transsexual patients is still the basic paradigm for transsexual medical care, which
we were
is
just talking about.
yeah, and it's kind of interesting that this person who was born in 1892 was still
the model.
the model, but he also was he was known as a very like compassionate, loving, and like understanding and like going out of his way all the time to administer hormones to patients that needed them and referring patients to surgeries. He's very well respected within the transgender community, but there is also a bit of rejection among trans scholars and researchers about just the general pathologizing and ultimately patronizing effects of medicalizing trans issues. So Harry Benjamin's model of treatment for transsexual patients is still the basic paradigm for transsexual medical care. In honor of Harry Benjamin, the group of doctors, therapists, and other medical professionals who treat transsexual patients, they decided to name their organization the Harry Benjamin International Gender Dysphoria Association, which is quite a mouthful.
Is there an acronym?
HGBIGDA.
Okay.
Harry Benjamin Institute Gender Dysphoria Association.
No, we're not going to
Let's put it on a hat.
So they also adopted the Harry Benjamin Standards of Care, which initially incorporated in 1979. The Harry Benjamin International Gender Dysphoria Association was established in 1979. That was the year that they took on that name and the Harry Benjamin Standards of Care.
Okay.
And then
79?
1979.
Okay.
Yes. And
That's like almost in our lifetimes.
it is. It's not that far away. And it was 10 years. It was
And he was born in 1918 something.
1868.
God, he was old as fuck.
That's
No. Sorry. No, not that was Magnus.
90 something.
He was
1898.
Sorry, I asked a hard
Was he
question.
80 something or 90 something when this happened?
Yeah, he was. I don't know. Fuck. I'm sorry. I can't find the date, but he was born in the
thought it was like-
late 1800s.
Okay, I thought it was like 1913 when he like hooked up with Magnus.
Yes, it was 1913 when he hooked up with
Okay.
Magnus. So he was born in like
So-
1886. I want to say.
Okay.
So early.
Magnus, not Max.
Hirschfield, Magnus Hirschfield. She's
Maxfield.
got the right name.
Maximilian
Magnus.
Maxfield.
We've been calling him Maxfield. and
Maxwell.
doesn't matter.
Magnus.
Maxwell
and
House.
him.
Okay, so
Okay, so but from 1890, he was born, and then in 1979.
he started following.
So he was
Magnus
like 80
and
to 90 at this time.
When
Well,
the,
he
like-
was 80 when the book was published in 66. He was in his 80s.
God.
Okay.
He lived to be 101. So in 1979, when this institute was incorporated, he was
A corpse?
in his 90s.
Do you think he was like fully involved in this?
Yes, he was. That's the thing. Like, this
Jesus
person was
Christ.
very much just like
Did
super
he not
involved.
retire ever?
I don't think so. Like, he was very involved until
He
like
didn't retire
the
in
end
the
of his life.
70s.
I don't know.
If I was 90 years old and I wasn't retired for 40 years, wait. If I wasn't retired for 30 years, I'd be really upset.
He's just like,
I'll just say that.
just still going.
So, okay, so the Harry Benjamin Standards of Care became known as the Standards of Care.
Okay.
So they dropped to the Harry Benjamin and they changed the Harry Benjamin Institute International Gender Dysphoria Association to WPATH.
They're like, he's dead. He won't notice. His name's not on it.
Well,
that's
there
a
were
dick move.
there were some political things that
It was like-
I have a short episode.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into all that, but they changed the name from that
He disgraced the family.
to no. He changed the name to the World Professional Association for Transgender Health and that
After
change
1979.
yes, that change was made in 2007, I
Oh my
want to
God.
say. Like, it's
He didn't
fairly
make that.
like
recent.
less than 10 years ago.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
fairly recent that they changed that over
What
to
year
that.
is it?
Okay, so it wasn't this exact man that
2007
made the
isn't less than
change.
10.
No, he
but
was
that's
passed
okay.
away.
It feels like
was
it.
his legacy of his
There's like a
institute.
board
There's a
of
board,
Okay.
yes,
whatever.
and they
More than
all
10
changed it over. They all.
Okay. All right.
So they all adopted this new name, and then instead of being the Harry Benjamin Standards of Care, it just became the Standards of Care.
Okay.
So this is where
Thanks
things
for straightening me out there, Lindsay.
this is where things get a little bit tricky.
As they do.
Oh, they haven't been tricky
In
this
the
whole time.
Well, they've all
It's felt a little tricky.
it's tricky. I checked in with one of my very best friends who is a social worker and who has a master's degree in social work, who is licensed to be an LCSW. And I asked, hey, like, have you ever heard of WPATH training? And this person's answer was, yes, I'm very familiar with WPATH training. However, I do not have it. And this person is licensed through Utah and has a master's degree. And like, I don't feel like they're incompetent in any way. I feel like maybe there's like a miscommunication. No, I feel like maybe it's not even an elective at this point. I feel like it's like a credential that you like have to go seeking. So
They don't make it easy.
I'm aware of credentials that you have to seek as an IT specialist.
that's how it came across to me. And if I'm wrong, and if any government,
I
not
hope
even
that
government,
it's-
if anybody has
I
some
hope we're
feedback,
wrong. I hope that.
I
like,
hope I'm wrong, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I am.
fucking woof.
So,
Fucking what?
but also that being said, I really want to go back to highlight that the very first criteria, which is part of the standards of care, the very first criteria for almost every single thing within standards of care, which is on version 7, with version 8 to be released by December of this year. So I'm interested to see what the new standards are. But the very first criteria for hormone therapy, for surgery, for any gender affirming care, really, is persistent, well documented gender dysphoria. And this is where I feel like we're coming into a problem because
Why What counts as documentation? Is it like your journals?
No, that's the problem. When I myself, and here I am, I just want to just put myself out there. I'm going to tell everybody my story.
You don't have to.
Well, I'm going to. I'm here for it. But I've been through all this. I've been through all the WPATH shit, and I, at the time, saw it as a accreditation that was like, I want to go through a WPATH accredited place, which they have a lot of good things going. I don't know. To be honest, as the presenter of this episode, I'm not telling anyone to go one way or another because I feel very struck in between.
But do you feel like it prevented you from being discriminated against? Like it gave you some sort of protection knowing that someone was seeking additional transgender
Or was at least aware.
awareness
And, like,
education?
Yes, I see that, and yes.
Or no?
Well, yes.
I'm not saying that you did that. I'm asking a question.
I went to a therapist who I called and said this is because according to the WPATH standards, in order to have surgical treatment, you need to have a letter from a therapist that diagnoses you, like gives you a scripted psychological diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
And you're like, you left a message with this person, and you're like, hello,
Yes.
I'd like to make an appointment.
Pretty
for
much.
this very specific.
Pretty much. I very much zeroed into someone who I knew thought this was bullshit because I also thought it was bullshit and wrote me a letter ascribing me to gender dysphoria, which is a part of my permanent medical record, which I hope that doesn't ever come back to bite me in the ass. But if something there are a lot of extermination situations that have happened in the history of ours and other countries, and that is very scary. Like I have a target over my head in the governmental paperwork.
Out in the middle of nowhere, and we will have a very long driveway, and we'll have a lot of
We talked about this actually a couple days ago.
Okay.
We'll have an electric fence.
Yes. And
I have a history
have to have
though.
a
That's
remote.
like I am known. No matter that I have learned the secrets to cover up my birth certificate so that no one can find out that my birth certificate gender isn't the same as the one that was assigned when I was born.
There's going to be like breadcrumbs.
There are
There are some
breadcrumbs. And
breadcrumbs.
today I had an interaction with a police officer who wanted to check in on my dead name and make sure that I was still the same person. And she was a sweet, I don't know. She handled it well.
But it's out there.
It's out there, and that's the thing is it is out there heavily, and it's scary. And it's not as scary. I feel like I'm okay, but I feel like a lot of people aren't
It's a bigger
okay.
target.
A lot of people are not okay.
However, can we circle back to what you just said about this specific mental health care provider knew what Kai would need? And it wasn't like, well, let me tell you, like, I need this and this and this and this. She was like, oh, yeah, okay, you want surgery? This is what we're going to do. You need to come to X amount of sessions.
And they're like, are you sure that you want to do this? Okay, check.
Yeah,
and
then
this
like
person met with me once and was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I understand.
Yeah, this is easy. And had like probably like a template letter and just signed it.
But the problem with this is I was given a diagnosis, which is a part of my permanent medical record, which, okay, fine. My permanent medical record says I have diagnosed gender dysphoria disorder. So for us, for now, that's fine. But
How could it be different though?
you have to have that to have surgery.
this is where like the catch comes in. Like it's like you can't. That might not necessarily be good. I don't necessarily want to blast myself as a target to like governmental people looking into my records and being like, I know we're where we are right now, but like if Trump was reelected, our government seems a little bit
No,
unstable.
It's terrible.
So, I guess I'm really at the end of what I have to present for everybody today, but I want to leave like a lasting mark to say that is it me or is it our society that's wrong?
So for me, biology and life and science is ever evolving, and I can't say that there is a wrong and a right way, and I think it's stupid to like try to say that there's like a normal and an abnormal and a like,
because normal and abnormal don't exist. We're just
Right.
living in a biological world
Even with-
where you can't put rules and politics on biology. It just things.
it becomes and is whatever it
Yes.
is.
I think it's just there are whole industries that like want to corral people into a specific
Yes.
section.
To me, being trans is to transcend what societal barriers are. To me, that's what trans is that I am transcending what the barriers of expectation that this society has placed on me are. And to me, and that small little thing helps me reclaim my power. And so I will take it. But I
Hallelujah.
I really want this topic was hard for me because I feel like there are two sides to this story and I can't tell both of them well, and I did seek out for my procedures, I did seek out a WPATH certified thing, and I brought my pamphlet today to share with the group of papers of what this whole fucking document of I had to go through so many documents
And sign your life
paperworks
away.
and sign things and say I wasn't going to do this and say I wasn't going to do that and sign all the things and read all these pamphlets and have all this information, and it just
That is
it's
why I
just
got
insane.
so hung up about your friends that can just like have their wives inject them with tea, and it's just like no problem. They go to the doctor
Like,
and
oh
they're like,
yeah,
I
cool, you
can't
got a
sleep.
wiener. Right on.
Yeah, you got a wiener.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
That is what it comes down to.
And
That's exactly.
do they check for the wiener? No, they
No.
don't.
They
It's just
just go
because
and
it
say, "I
says
can't."
M on their fucking shit or whatever, and they look like a dude.
And does anybody know what the barrier to get M on your shit is? It's a fucking bitch.
right.
It's a fucking bitch.
I just think it's all arbitrary.
And I'm privileged, and I want to tell. I want to share that with the world because, like, not everybody has a friend who's an attorney that can help them
Right.
get their shit processed through the legal system. I am privileged.
when we start to dig further down into these things, is it really like a surprise? No, it's not. It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You're right.
So the ending note is that our medical system and our societal structure is not realistic.
It's
Gender
based
is a
on-
social construct.
Gender is a social construct, which therefore makes transsexualism, and I realize that that is an out-of-date term, but I'm using that to affiliate with the subject matter that I presented today. But transsexualism, transgenderism is a product of
society.
It's a product of society to be able to exist safely, and like we feel the need to rebel and not be what society wants to place us in, and it's all a construct.
I do have a question about your episode.
Please give me a question.
So your episode is about WPATH,
yes.
and we talked about, is this like a class that someone takes, or is this an accreditation? Is this like a one doctor takes some course, or is it like one hospital takes?
It's more of a
course.
hospital thing. So, like, the University of Utah is WPATH accredited.
Okay.
So
And
then,
they have a really
all
good
of their
program.
Doctors have to be
Aware of
educated.
things.
Yes, and this is where it gets tricky, is because I really truly believe in my own soul, from my own research, that the intent for good is there, but when you pathologize something,
And you make a bunch of hoops you have to jump
Well,
through.
yeah, you're like,
yes, when
need
you have
check
to have
this
a
box before I
therapist
can
letter,
write
and
this.
when you have to have
Yeah.
when you have to have all these things to be able to
And then insurance
receive
won't
this
cover it.
care, and insurance, like, it was a nightmare.
At some point,
it
just
was
let me
absolutely
sign
a
a fucking
nightmare.
waiver. That's
Yeah.
like,
How
this
do you,
is what
like,
I know I want to do.
Why would I just pretend to be a trans person? Like, why would I sign up for that narrative? It sucks. It's not
right?
fun.
Like-
It's not been a fun road
And
for
that's
me.
the
And it's
LGBTQIA experience this whole time.
Right.
Where it's
Why
like,
would I
why
sign
wanna
up
be
for this
way?
voluntarily to be fun so I can go on this fun new adventure? It sucks.
And be
it's not a fun new
ostracized at
adventure.
school and be bullied and be just kept from all the normal things that make people happy.
Right, and have to
Why
go
would
to
I
a
wanna do that?
therapist when I already know what's wrong with me. Have to go to a therapist who I have
It's
to pay money
degrading.
that I don't have to go to a therapist because I don't have insurance. And this is where this like privilege comes in. Like, I didn't have a lot of those resources, but I was able to work them out, and I was in a relationship with somebody who had a health insurance plan, and when we got married, I was able to have insurance. But, like, I think about all of these people that are literally living on the street, that are trans through and through, who have no connections with any kind of medical care, who have no connections with any kind of mental health, anything like that. And there are so many barriers for them that are in place because of these standards that, like, unless you want to go to some shoddy place, you are not going to get the highest quality of care because you cannot show that you've done X, Y, and Z to get to the place of care that you need to go. It's not right. It's fucked up. There should
it's
stop.
like-
It's gatekeeping.
It's like elite universities.
It's
right?
elite. It's gatekeeping. It's fucked up. And
It's like
shitty.
going to Yale or Harvard or something. It's
Are you trans enough? Are you fucking trans enough to get care for your transness? And usually the people that really need care are the people that literally have nothing. And I have a good supportive spouse. I have a good supportive, like, friend, family unit who lifts me up. But, like, there are so many people that don't even have their basic needs met, and it's just devastating. Like, you don't have food, you can't get a job. I've seen my friends trying to get a job and they can't even get employed for a minimum wage job. It's absolutely gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching. Like, we're just normal ass fucking people. Anyway,
Well, here we are. We're going to wrap up this episode.
my boo of the week is the asshole who hit my truck this morning.
Yeah, the hit and run driver.
By the way, we're
That's a
going to
great-
find you.
Yeah, fuck you, buddy.
Thanks to Officer Bleep, we know the make and model of your car. Unfortunately, you didn't know that you left behind a piece of your
whole
car.
wheel well.
Your whole wheel well
That
was
had-
gutted
With
out
a
on my
serial number,
lawn.
you fucking
The
dummy.
serial number, and we're going to find you.
We're
gonna
coming for you, bitch.
Roll Ogden up and down.
And we're going to punch you in the nuts.
No kicking. No
Double,
punching.
double punch.
It's going to be a
Hands.
fist.
It's
And
gonna
then
be
I'm going to
hands.
call the
a
cops.
fist to ball contact.
And then we're going to grab and, like,
Twist.
tear away.
Grab, twist, and tear.
And if you happen to not have balls, then we'll think of something else.
If you don't have balls, we'll find something equally as terrible.
Like one.
We would also like to tell our listeners about an event that our podcast and our zine, the LQ, will be at, which is the Yard Sale, hosted by Audrey of Haby Fab. It's on October 2nd from 2 to 7. And
We're gonna have t-shirts for sale.
Yep.
We might have more merch. We're gonna have our stickers there.
And we're also
gonna talk to people.
Yep. We're gonna have a little fun talky poppy. So
hopefully
details
people
to
like
come.
Please join us.
Please join us at
We're
the
looking
art
forward
sale.
to it.
We really would love to see you. Thank you all for joining us today. This has been Toasted Lavender Podcast. I'm Kai, and cheers to everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Things get a little bit tricky.
As they do.
Oh, they haven't been tricky
In
this
the
whole time.
Well, they've all...
It's felt a little tricky.
It's tricky, but there are...
It's tricky. We're tricky.
I don't know. We're just gonna do it. Just start talking right now.
Okay, so I want to first talk about the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Menu.
Sexual manual.
No, it's not exactly.
The deviant. What is the DSM? What does it stand for?
Asking me, this isn't my episode.
We're on number 5 at this
Diagnostical
Number 5?
Statistical Manual. I think that's what it.
Diagnostical.
Diagnostic and
Not a word.
Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Who the fuck just said it was the Diagnostical Statistical Manual?
I think that you said testicular.
Babe. Okay, so I checked in. This is interesting. So
Okay.
everybody reel it in.
I got it.